If you spend any time online as a young man, you have likely encountered these myths. They will have been presented to you as facts, even clear goals to work toward. But life is not as simple or as restricting as many online gurus would have you believe. In this video, I'm going to present 4 ideas that are commonly given as facts. We're going to understand them and see why they might have some validity, but we're also going to challenge them, and I will suggest ways that you can develop your own beliefs and set goals that clearly align with your character. So let's begin with number 1. The first myth young men are being told is that you need to sleep with at least 50 women before getting married. So I came across this idea when I was listening to a podcast with Fresh and Fit. Their logic is this: a man needs to have sampled as many different women as he can before committing, so he knows accurately if she is the right one. If a man is to get married, he needs to do so from an abundance of choice, not scarcity. Now, can I see some validity to this argument? Yes, I can. Choosing your wife is likely the most important decision you will ever make. So it's important to have as much information as possible about whether you two are truly compatible. One way you can do this is with comparison. But I think it's deeply flawed to say that the best way you can do this is by sleeping with 50 women. First, a gentleman never treats a woman as a number. That's degrading not only to her, but to himself. Secondly, sex is just one part of what will make a happy marriage. And setting 50 as this arbitrary number won't necessarily give you much information on women, especially if many of these 50 are made up with one-night stands. It would be equally useful to simply go on a date with 50 women and spend a few hours in their company, or be in several more long-term relationships so you can truly understand what it's like to commit and have a long-term partner. So my advice to you is to decide for yourself how much experience you think you need before choosing the right partner, and also decide of the types of experience that you want to have, which might be things outside of sex. The goal of making $100,000 a year is another arbitrary number that men are being told to meet. The idea of making 6 figures a year came about really in the 1980s, and with inflation that would be more like 250,000. So I don't really know why we are still hanging on to this idea of $100,000. I do agree that it's important to have financial security as a gentleman, especially if you want to raise children. But what that dollar amount will be totally depends on your goals. If you want to live in an affluent neighborhood, support your wife, and send your children to private school, $100,000 a year will be nowhere near enough. If you want to live in a modest house, on a farm, and homeschool your children, then you might need a bit less. But I urge you to create your own vision for life and decide how much money you will need to make that happen, rather than relying on the goals of others. One thing I do agree with many of these red pill influencers on is that your 20s and 30s as a man is the prime time to set yourself up for financial success. But don't get caught up in the expectations of others or of society. Decide for yourself what success looks like. The next myth is probably the one that annoys me the most, but I see it perpetuated time and time again online. A lot of men who are still too young to have much dating experience of their own are being told that there are no good women left in the Western world. Almost anyone who has experienced dating in the US or Europe will know that this is a myth, but I think there's a reason why this myth is so pervasive. You see, a lot of men's influencers have made their success by saying controversial things online and flaunting their wealth. What kinds of women do you think are going to be attracted to that? Combine that with living in places like Miami and Vegas, being in the nightlife scene, hanging around with women 15, 20 years younger than you. Obviously, it's not going to be the perfect way to find your wife. So some of these influencers have a very warped perception of women, and that's what they put on to ordinary guys living in ordinary towns. From my experience, both in long-term relationships and casual dating, I found there are lots of good women still out there, even in big cities like London and Los Angeles. I haven't found the one for me yet, but that's okay because what I've experienced so far gives me hope that she is out there. And if you find yourself only having negative experiences while dating, it might be time to do some self-reflection. Perhaps you are taking a negative mindset into these interactions. Maybe you need to treat women better on these dates. Maybe you need to make more effort with your own appearance. Perhaps you need to become a better listener and communicator so she can actually form a connection with you. Some male influencers tell men to never show emotions around a woman for fear of being seen as weak. Although this might apply in the earlier stages of dating or how you want to project yourself to the world, constantly suppressing your emotions is a very dangerous game. And you will never fully connect with a woman or win her trust if you always hide certain sides of yourself. Remember, nobody denies that men have these emotions, even ones that have been seen as feminine or weak. In fact, exposing your vulnerabilities and letting your guard down can be the moment that you form the deepest connection with a woman. It's also essential that you can just process emotions and handle things as a man. And just because you are also comfortable with your emotions doesn't mean you can't hold a confident and masculine frame. It's all about knowing how and when to let things out when you need to, and be strong and composed at other times. To have this level of control over your emotions, and that's something I'm working on, you need to have healthy outlets. You might need to go lift weights or take boxing classes to get that anger out. Maybe have therapy or do journaling to process things on a deeper level. Or having a good friend or partner with whom you can talk about things is also important. And I don't use the word partner in an attempt to be woke. I think it's important to see a serious girlfriend or wife as a partner in life. Lots of men are told that women are just the accessory, but that kind of mindset will always set you up for failure in the long term. Gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this video and it's been a good antidote to much of the content you see online. In this video, there's been a consistent theme. Instead of following what others are telling you, make your own choices and create your own path. It's okay to take inspiration from things that you see online, but remember to question them. Consider what really matters to you and set your own goals. In the comments, I would love to know if there are any other myths and lies that you think young men are being fed online. Maybe there's something that's not on my radar, but I would be very interested to know. And while I encourage you to avoid these 4 myths, it's also important to have positive role models. For my suggestions, check out the video I made on 5 modern role models for young gentlemen. In this video, I tell you a bit about their lives, what they've achieved, and how you could apply these lessons to your own life. So I hope you enjoyed that video. I'll look forward to speaking with you in the comments and seeing you in the next one.